Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of GLP's 10 out of 10. And today we have with us Charlie Cosmo Wilson. So Charlie Wilson, more affectionately known as Cosmo, is an American lighting designer and director who almost needs no introduction to so many people out there. He's been touring the world with his trademark Hawaiian shirts for a number of decades in a career to date where he probably has a global friend list that outnumbers the United Nations. Working as a backline technician before he transitioned into the world of lighting, Cosmo has toured with a long list of some of the top rock bands out there, including Ronnie James Dio, the Scorpions, Mötley Crüe, Def Leppard, and the Black Crowes. On top of that, Cosmo has been a part of some truly iconic events, including the Freddie Mercury tribute concert for AIDS research, the culmination of the Monsters of Rock tour in 1991 that finished in Moscow with an estimated live audience of 1.6 million fans. That's live, in person, unbelievable. And then right up to this year, where he was a core member of the team for the 9/11 tribute in New York. Cosmo has established many enduring relationships in his career, both personally and professionally, but is perhaps best known for his work with bands such as Foreigner, AC/DC, and Aerosmith, all of which he has worked with for many years. Cosmo has been awarded for his work, receiving a Parnelli Award in 2015, the Tourlink Top Dog Awards in 2016 and again in 2017, and earlier in 2020 was awarded the Live Production Summit Pinnacle Awards for both the Lighting Director of the Year and the Lighting Designer of the Year. Something tells me that this is just the beginning, though, and Cosmo is continuing to grow that friend list as long as he possibly can. Welcome, Cosmo Wilson.
Thank you very much. Boy, I have a hard time living up to that introduction and reputation.
It's incredible. It's incredible. I mean, obviously, decades so far, but trying to do an introduction and summarize it into just the high points it was actually quite difficult because you've done so much. There's so many bands that you've worked with that we didn't mention there. Well, let's have a go at some of the questions. Let's try and wind it all the way back to near the beginning and go. So, what was your first show as a designer?
The first real show I designed by myself was a David Lee Roth tour in 1994.
Okay.
I had say with other things like Patrick, and we did stuff, but as far as my own first, from scratch was David Lee Roth in 1994, and it was nothing elaborate. It was very simple. But the real first tour I ever did with a complete and utterly, my kind of signature with the finger trusses and old school park hands was the Scorpions in 1997, and and after that, but that was probably my first over the top design that I look back and say it was my first design.
Yeah. And there's some iconic pictures of that design as well, as you say, those fingers. That was quite spectacular. So over the years, of course, I'm sure that for all the successes and all the great times that you've had, there have also been a few moments where it could have gone a bit better. So what would you say is the best Spinal Tap moment that you can remember and that you're willing to share as well, of course?
Willing to share, that's the key. Well, I mean, fortunately, I've not had any situations where I've forgotten some major, part of the show, or, I've heard of a production manager just forgetting to order trucks and stuff like that. And, but I mean, I was trying to think, but the one thing I can think of, and it's a minor thing, but it's a funny story. And I think to this day, I use a lot of confetti on my shows, and I'm a big fan of confetti cannons. And I don't mean the blowers with the CO2. I mean the compressed air cannons that make them explode out,
right?
Like pyro. I use them on Mötley Crüe. I've used them a lot. And Pyro Pete came up with this great thing, and he had a handheld one that Vince Neil used to shoot on Mötley Crüe. But I brought him out on Aerosmith, and I put him on the downstage truss, and because I really wanted to, I want the people to see it, and I just want that explosion.
Yeah.
So we had a dozen units, and we put about 5 to 10 pounds of confetti in each one. So I mean, it was huge. But we are playing. We're at the Hollywood Bowl, the iconic Hollywood Bowl, and they're like, no confetti here because of the location and the pollution, and it's LA County and Hollywood and all that. I'm like, but they said, we will sell you biodegradable confetti. So we bought, $1,000 or I don't know, all this confetti. So I wanted to make sure it was going to be great. So we loaded the confetti cannons. Everything was there ready to go. I made sure the guys loaded the right confetti because I didn't want to get in trouble from the locals. So at the show, the moment comes, I hit the button, nothing. My crew forgot to plug it in. The first lead. So that was all they were getting ready, and all that confetti just, we used it the next gig, but still.
Right. But that wasn't at the Hollywood Bowl anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a shame. All the planning, and then somebody just forgot to plug it in. But that is a Spinal Tap moment. That's worthy.
It certainly was
A worthy story. Hi. I'm sure you speak to many people throughout your travels. What would you say is the one piece of advice that anyone ever gave you, professionally or otherwise, that's just been the best piece of advice for you?
The professional advice, it was Patrick Woodruff. I mean, Patrick Woodruff, I've worked with a long time. He's a mentor of mine. You know him very well. He's a great person. We were doing a show in Berlin on the Rolling Stones in 1990. Okay. And we'd had this kind of microcell storm blow through, and it just mangled everything. The stage stuff, we were going to be lucky to pull a show off. But at the time, it was when the DMX dimmers were new, and we had the Avo racks and the DMX dimmers. So they got wet. So the lights were coming on and flashing and stuff, and I really had no control over it. But we're trying to fix it. They're drying stuff out. They had hair dryers out. Oh. And it's getting closer to showtime. The back line is back together. Sound is fine. So they're kind of waiting on lights. And Patrick says, Cosmo, at some point, you've got to make a decision on how to move forward. When you realize you can't fix the problem, you have to find an alternative solution. And that I learned a lot from that. And that, stuck to me to this day, that, you have to eventually make a decision, especially in our business. The show must go on. So how do you make the show go on? And, we came up with a way we never fixed it, but I came up with a way to deal with it. And it's stuck in my head ever since, and Patrick also had a saying, says, once you commit to a cue, you can never go back. And it's that same kind of thing, and that's the most professional advice in the business.
We mentioned a few of the shows and the events that you've worked on in the introduction. What would you say overall so far in your career is your proudest achievement?
Right. I was working at the Rolling Stones in Berlin in 1990 and running the lights, and it was my first major tour. And we're 80,000 people are there in Olympic Stadium, and I hit the audience lights at one point. And I remember standing on the tower in front of my console, and I just looked around and I just saw people smiling and laughing and singing, and I thought, what a great job I have that brings this much joy and happiness to people. I mean, who else has a job like it? Of course, the Stones and the musicians, the people on stage do, but to be part of it,
Right.
So that was a very major moment in my life and made me realize how lucky and fortunate I am.
Yeah, that's incredible, and it's great to remember that. Obviously, that's what makes you want to go back to work every day. So obviously, during this year has been a bit special. What do you normally do during your downtime, though?
Well, I mean, I have a lot of hobbies. I don't always have time to do them, but I try to do bits and pieces. I mean, I love to cook. I'm a food connoisseur. I love to eat out. But I do love to cook, and the one thing that sucked about this is I have time, but since the quarantine, you really can't have parties and you can't have dinner parties and stuff. And, I like to entertain, but I do other things. I mean, I like shooting, I'm a gun enthusiast. I like mainly just not really competitive, but I do competitive stuff. I like to fish. Okay. I love to work out in my yard. I'm a gardener, and the one thing with the pandemic, we put in a big garden and had, for the summer, we had tons of fresh vegetables, which were fed into the cooking.
Fantastic.
I love airplanes, so I don't build airplanes as much as I used to, but I'm a big model builder. Good old Airfix kits and stuff, and I go to air shows when I can. And, living in Florida, there's always an air show around somewhere. I mean, it kind of slowed down for the pandemic, but it came back, and, you can socially distance at an air show. That's a nice thing.
Right. That's true. Find a space on the beach and, watch them all happen. Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. That's a long list. It's amazing that you have time to fit it all in between all those tours as well. We mentioned some of the places again in the introduction. You've obviously played some huge amount of venues all around the world. Do you have a favorite venue that you would pick out?
I got to say that one of my favorite places to play, and even it's probably my favorite and the biggest pain in the ass, is the Madison Square Garden. You know, I saw shows there in the 70s. I mean, it was an iconic, but still an iconic place. And you know, it's you know, not since, you know, going to see shows there was incredible. And you know, and so having said that, the other venue that's special to me as well is the Forum, and not that I went there as a kid because I was an East Coast guy, but it still had that kind of iconic feel. And the first time I played there was, you know, it was like, here I am in the West Coast version of the Garden, and then you know, so those two,
yeah,
you know, it's very, very special to me.
Still favorites to go back to.
Yeah.
Musically, if you you know, if the pandemic continues, if there was a complete lockdown and you were only able to take away one album or listen to one artist, who would that be?
That's a tough question, because I love so much music, from big band to jazz to blues to heavy metal, you know. But I gotta say, my favorite band, I mean, AC/DC is one of my top favorite bands, and Back in Black is one of the most iconic albums, you know.
Yeah.
Power Age is one of my favorite albums, but I would have to say that if I had to take one album, it would probably be Judas Priest's British Steel.
If you could wind the clock back to and go and visit the teenage Cosmo, and you could offer him one piece of advice, what piece of advice would that be?
Well, the one piece that's hard. I mean, there's this simple, straightforward advice: save some money.
Right.
I think one thing I would say is manage your time.
Okay.
You know, it's as you know, as you get older, you realize how fast time goes, and to take advantage. I look at time that you know, John Lennon always said, you know, having fun wasting time is not time wasted. So I get that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, when you look back and say, I wish I would have done this, I wish I would have done that. You know, it's especially now with COVID, I'm taking online courses and stuff, and it's interesting to learn stuff that I didn't think I could learn, or now I know. It's
fantastic. If you were able to sit down for a cup of coffee with one person, living or dead, who would that be?
I think, and it's not just one person. It kind of is. It's George Washington, Ben Franklin, the original founders of the United States, because they had. It's amazing, and people don't. Especially, I don't think modern day Americans realize how much foresight these guys had. I mean, to figure out what they figured out about this, not just this country and stuff, but humans. You know, they took humans to the next stage, and you know, this, as you know, this country, we have issues and stuff like that, but to have that idea and to set it into the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence was it's unbelievable that they were that brilliant.
Yeah.
And as I said, far forward seeing, you know, so those guys, you know, I'd love to sit down with them and just, you know, talk to them, you know, John Adams and you know, it's just Ben Franklin, especially. I mean, what a brilliant guy, and what seemingly great people.
Yes.
So you know, as I said, I hate to not just pick one. I'd have to say George Washington, because, you know,
go for the top of the tree. That's fair enough. Yeah. We're up to our final question
wow.
already. Yeah, I know, it doesn't say that long. So once we're going to finish with the interview, the phone's going to call. The phone's going to ring. Sorry, and it's going to be the U.S. Olympic Agency calling you. And they're gonna offer you a place on the team. Now, it could be for the Summer Games or it could be for the Winter Games. The question is, you know, what sport are they going to call you up for? What would you like to have a go at?
Well, being a Florida guy, I'm not into Winter Games, so I don't like the cold, ice, snow. Right. I like to look at it, visit it, and come back to Florida. But the things, I mean, you know, there's two sports that I would consider. One is competitive shooting. Like I said, I like to shoot. That's a lot of fun. But I think if I was going to be in the Olympics, it would be one of the forms of swimming, because I love to swim. I was a baby, you know, water baby.
Right.
You know, growing up in Florida with the ocean and lakes and pools and stuff, and so I love to swim. I have my own pool now, and I generally swim every day. And that's what I would do. I'd be in some sort of competitive swimming.
Fantastic. I think you're the first swimmer that we've had.
Really?
It's brilliant. All right. Cosmo, thank you so much for finding some time for us. Obviously, you're keeping extremely busy even during the pandemic and everything. So we really appreciate it, and of course, look forward to meeting up in person as and when we can.
Yeah, I'll be glad when this is over and we can all get back together. I miss touring, of course, but I miss seeing my friends like yourself.
Yeah, thanks again. Stay well, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.
You too. Thanks again.